It appears that Rahm Emanuel is back, and he is having regular conversations with presumptive Democratic nominee Joe Biden. And guess what he's talking about? Economic policy. Great. Now, this is according to a report from the Chicago Tribune. Now, Emanuel has been having conversations with Biden on economic issues like reopening the country, infrastructure, and more, which of course means disaster. How do I know that? It's because Rahm Emanuel is not a friend of progressives. Not interested at all in progressive policy. In fact, he is one of the people who was tanking or helping tank Medicare for all, who helped tank a public option. And so this is not somebody who is really good for Joe Biden to be talking to. That's as if Joe Biden, of course, would listen to progressives, which is a ridiculous idea because he would never listen to progressives. So he's actually one of the guys who called liberal activists on healthcare effing retarded. That's a quote, right? Obviously unacceptable to say in any context. That's some pretty ableist BS. But he went after progressives for challenging corporate Democrats. And so, of course, he's not a friend to us. No, he is one of the top corporate Democrat hacks and gets lots and lots of money from Wall Street. To illustrate that, he was talking on the Hacks on Tap podcast, right? So that's fun. And this is co-hosted by Obama administration alum and Chicagoan David Axelrod and a GOP political strategist named Mike Murphy. So at one point, Axelrod notes, Rahm, you've been involved with the Biden campaign and talking through their economic plans, which of course is why they're so garbage. He then asked Emanuel whether coronavirus makes it more likely Biden will offer a quote unquote bolder progressive agenda. To which Emanuel responds, the moment may call for it, and I'm a big believer in never allowing a crisis to go to waste. But the whole primary was a couple of people in our party talking about a revolution and a couple of people in our party talking more reform than revolution, or of course, as Biden put it, nothing will fundamentally change. So you're looking at, if Joe Biden wins, a couple of tweaks on the outside, right? Little fixes here and there, a couple of regulations put back, that Trump had eliminated, but otherwise basically the same. In fact, their tax proposal is disastrous. They're putting they proposed putting the top tax bracket to 28%. It's currently at 21%. Guess what it was before the Trump tax cuts? 35%. To 28%. No, ridiculous. It should be 70%. That's what I think. And again, that's the top marginal tax bracket. Don't flip out. That's for people making over, I would say, $1 million a year. That's just me. I do it a little bit more aggressively than a lot of people, but that's just me. Because you know what? We've got some important things to fund, like infrastructure, like healthcare, all that. So there's more. Emanuel says, what Biden is now saying is, well, the post-COVID world requires a revolution. No, Biden is not saying that. And I'm surprised because he did not win on the revolution model. He won in the reform model. Let's get things really, really clear here. Joe Biden didn't win on any model. Joe Biden got the backing of every establishment Democrat, including Pete Buttigieg, who was beating him in the polls and in delegates. Joe Biden was about to drop. He had no infrastructure and he had almost no money. His campaign was going broke. But then Obama made some calls behind the scenes and said, you guys need to drop and support Joe Biden. Because Joe Biden did well in South Carolina, thanks to his endorsement, the endorsement of Jim Clyburn, which turned out to be an incredibly pivotal endorsement. And I wish Bernie Sanders had gone after that endorsement, or at least maybe not pissed him off and just, got him to sit out of the primary and not endorse his opponent. Might have helped out a little bit. And so, but yeah, Obama made some calls, and now, of course, we have Joe Biden. So don't tell me that he won on the reform model. He didn't win on anything. Bloody Monday. That's what it was. All right. So that said, Emanuel said Trump makes this comparison, right? And it's a ridiculous comparison between Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump. Says Trump's already offering a revolution. And he said, I'm not sure revolution is going to be reassuring to Southfield, Michigan, Bloomfield, Michigan, the suburbs out of Milwaukee, the suburbs in Phoenix. You know what he's talking about? He's talking about white suburban Republican voters. That's who Rahm Emanuel thinks should be the Democratic electorate. That's who we should go after, white suburban Republicans, because they'll definitely not vote for Donald Trump. Look, we got the never Trump demographic. We got the Jennifer Rubins, and we got the Rick Wilsons. We got those guys. Why do we need progressives? No, progressives are effing retarded, and we shouldn't have them at all in our party. We should shun them to the corners of the earth. Get them out of our party. No, we represent the rich. We represent the corporations. That's it. That's it. That's it. That's who Rahm Emanuel represents. But you know what he's saying, of course. He's saying, hey, Joe, I'm a little concerned that you've adopted tiny bit of Bernie Sanders rhetoric, and we can't go too far to the left. We can't do that. And Biden he's got no plans to run to the left. Not in any substantive way. So understand that, right? Now, I'm not saying that, you should not support or vote for Joe Biden in order to get rid of Trump. I'm saying, look, if you want to vote tactically, that's your choice. I'm not going to vote shame anybody for or against Joe Biden. But understand that you vote for him, this is what you're getting. You're not getting any fundamental change. These committees or task forces that have some very great dedicated progressives on, that are going to try like hell to try to get progressive policy, it's not going to do any good. It's just not. Biden's not going to go in our direction in any substantive way. And we got to be honest about that. And if we're honest about that and go to the polls and still say, look, I can't support Donald Trump, or I can't vote for Donald Trump, that'd be horrible, right? We can't afford another 4 years. Totally get you. Totally with you on that, right? Can't afford it another 4 years, especially climate change, COVID-19, all this stuff, right? But understand that none of this is changing Joe Biden's mind. I mean, we should already know that because of the way that Joe Biden still continues to rail against universal health care under a Medicare for all system. He's not going to go to our direction on that. So let's just be honest, right? So now Rahm Emanuel, he goes back and he says, quote, my view is to go back and let's basically raise the floor on the New Deal, which is a guarantee in and around retirement security, guarantee in and around healthcare security, and guarantee in and around the education of your children all the way through post-high school. That would be the most important thing we could do that is both fundamental and structural, so those elements that come to a middle-class life have more foundational support than they did pre the crisis. What does that even mean? I mean, let's guarantee in and around healthcare. Honestly, look, to me, I've got a little spider sense when it comes to bullshit, right? And this is just another way of saying we want to guarantee, quote unquote, access to healthcare. Why not just guarantee healthcare? Like Medicare for all. Oh, right. Rahm Emanuel's donors, and as well as Joe Biden's donors, they're in the health industry, the insurance industry specifically, right? They have lobbied successfully, and not only that, but the pharmaceutical industry as well, have all lobbied, given tens of thousands of dollars to Joe Biden and Rahm Emanuel to go against Medicare for all. And that's it. Corporate donors don't want it. And so if the corporate donors don't want it, the Democratic Party and their nominee shouldn't want it either. And that's the truth of the situation. And so that's why he's saying, oh, well, we want to guarantee in and around healthcare and retirement and all that stuff, and education through post high school. Not in favor of free college, of course, and also not in favor of expanding Social Security. That is not in Rahm Emanuel's platform. That is not really in Joe Biden's platform. It's just not. It's just not. And so the irony, of course, is we had somebody who actually, and he's talking about Rahm Emanuel. He's talking about, oh, let's expand on the New Deal, right? We had a person that was running to actually expand the New Deal, who was a real New Deal Democrat. Now, Bernie Sanders was a reformist. He was a real reformist, not a revolutionary, right? He was a reformist candidate, but he had excellent reforms and excellent ideas, right? So, no, we weren't talking about a revolution, not a real one, a political revolution to get modest center-left policy like universal health care. Because when you look at us compared to the rest of the world, we are massively center-right. No, I'm sorry, we're not center-right. We are massively right-wing. Whereas in countries where they have universal health care, that is considered a centrist, center-right position. We're nowhere near leftist. Bernie Sanders would be a centrist politician. And so this whole talk about revolution versus reform. Oh, Joe Biden's a reform candidate. No, he's not. Absolute garbage. He's not the reformist. He's not a reformist candidate at all. He wants to continue our rightward slide, or at least continue the status quo. It's absolutely ridiculous. We had somebody that did actually try to promote the New Deal, and people like Rahm Emanuel buried him. David Axelrod buried him. Now, the reason, look, having this guy involved, or that we don't want this guy involved in any campaign. And right now, he's not officially part of the campaign. He's not running for office or anything like that. He's just advising Biden, but he shouldn't be anywhere near the Biden campaign because he's toxic. He's absolutely toxic. He's a toxic centrist. He's an ally to Wall Street. Not only that, but he's also, look, when he was running Chicago, he buried the Laquan McDonald tape. He shouldn't be near any campaign or any person of power. He shouldn't be giving anyone advice. He should be gone, out of politics. People like him are why Democrats continue to lose. His advice of more centrism, or more right-wing, I should say, less progressivism, is not what we need to see, but unfortunately, exactly what we expect to see from both him and, of course, unfortunately, the campaign of Joe Biden, who I think, look, I see the election going a couple of ways, right? I do see Joe Biden pulling out a bare win, right? Like a tiny win over Donald Trump. Why? It's not because of his policies. It's because of COVID-19. It's because of this pandemic. It's because of Donald Trump being so disastrously unpopular that he could have allow someone like Joe Biden, who's running on basically nothing at all, blue MAGA, right? Let's get back to normal. Let's get back to what we had before that actually created Donald Trump in the first place. That's what he's running on. And that, I mean, people are so desperate right now for any sort of return to quote unquote normalcy, which unfortunately is still pretty bad, or was still pretty bad, that they'll vote for Joe Biden. That's one of the things I see. There's also, of course, the possibility that he could take votes for granted. Biden could, and end up losing and giving Donald Trump 4 more years. And that's the disastrous situation that we're in. And it's unfortunate because, he knows, Biden knows that he needs progressive votes to win, or should be voting, courting progressives. And yet he's having conversations with Rahm Emanuel, and he's considering Jamie Dimon for his cabinet and Michael Bloomberg. And all of those are just a gigantic slap in the face to progressives, the very voters that he really, really needs. This whole election is just completely disastrous and a 100% shit show. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent progressive media.